My name is Vicki. I'm currently 35 years old. I run an Italian restaurant which started from a small secondhand shop, but now, after 10 years, has grown into a popular venue. We've expanded and relocated to a larger, more convenient location, and I currently employ around 20 staff members. My husband Lee is 38 years old, and we have been married for 5 years. He was originally one of our regular customers back when the restaurant was just a small business. At first, I thought he was just a carefree individual who would say anything to get attention. However, as he frequented the restaurant, we became close. Our friendship allowed us to share more personal conversations. At the time, I had a boyfriend, but we broke up due to him cheating on me. It was Lee's cheerful personality that encouraged me when I was feeling down and helped me regain my spirits. I was traumatized by my ex-boyfriend's cheating, but Lee kept reassuring me that he would never cheat on me, and finally, I agreed to date him. Surprisingly, our relationship progressed smoothly. We introduced each other to our families. The decision to get married just seemed like a natural progression of our relationship. Lee began helping out at the restaurant from the time we got engaged, and after our wedding, he quit his job and officially joined the restaurant. Being a graduate of a university economics program, Lee is well versed in business and finance. I, being less knowledgeable in those areas, rely on and trust Lee. Now he holds a position similar to that of a manager and is a great partner I can depend on, both personally and professionally. We considered looking for a new home after we got married, but considering the distance and location of the restaurant, we decided to continue living in the house where I had been living. You often hear about couples who work together having disagreements, but I feel fulfilled both professionally and personally, and I'm very happy. However, my recent concern is my mother-in-law. She has a distorted sense of money. She squanders even the necessary living expenses and often comes to the restaurant to beg for money and food. Vicki, please, I don't even have money to buy food this month. I'm really in trouble. Just lend me $100. I'll definitely pay you back at some point. Mother-in-law, you said the same thing last time. You haven't paid back the money I've lent you so far. I can't lend you any more. Oh, really? Well, I'll just take the leftovers from the restaurant, just for a while. I can't do that either. We have a policy against taking home the leftovers, and moreover, we are controlling to minimize food waste in our restaurant. What is that? How heartless can a daughter-in-law be, even though your mother-in-law is in trouble? We are family. You could give me something secretly. What am I supposed to do from now on? Isn't Lee the owner here? That makes me like the chairwoman, right? You are not the person to talk to. Bring out my son. No, that's not correct. I am the one in charge of the restaurant, and Lee is currently out on other business. You are causing inconvenience to the other customers, so could you please leave for today? I will ask Lee to contact you later. My mother-in-law always behaves like this, and she won't listen to anything I say. Although Lee is in fact an employee and is subordinate to me, my mother-in-law is under the impression that Lee is the owner of the restaurant. Lee's family used to run their own business. However, his parents were irresponsible with their finances and didn't properly manage the company's money. They used the revenue primarily for their salaries and bonuses. His mother used to spend extravagantly on trips and luxury goods, writing off these expenses leading to huge deficits. Lee, who had some concerns about his parents, received a scholarship and went to university with the aim of reviving the family business. However, it was already too late. Just before Lee graduated, his family's business went bankrupt. His parents declared personal bankruptcy and fell into debt, and it seems that Lee had a hard time, including handling the procedures. Afterwards, his parents changed their ways and began to lead a frugal life, and their names were removed from the debtors list by the time we got married. However, just when we were relieved, Lee's father fell ill as if he had let down his guard and passed away. As a result of his father's death, his mother received an inheritance and insurance money, and she started squandering money again, which leads us to the present situation. Given these circumstances, it had always been Lee who dealt with his mother. However, as her restaurant began to prosper and our financial situation improved, Lee started spending less time at the restaurant, leaving it to me and the employees. There were times when my mother-in-law would pop up unexpectedly on days like today when Lee hadn't gone to work, leaving me wondering what to do. One day, I left my restaurant in the hands of my employees and went to scout the rival store across the street. While eating and observing the surroundings, I spotted Lee outside the store, arm in arm with an unknown woman. I quickly paid my bill, abandoned my meal, and rushed outside. With my heart pounding painfully, I followed them discreetly. This must be some mistake. Even if it really is Lee, there must be a reason. Our relationship is solid, and there's no way he would betray me. However, to my dismay, I watched the two of them enter a motel just off the busy street in front of the station, laughing happily. The shock of reality left me in a daze for a while. Once the shock had subsided, anger began to well up. Instead of confronting Lee, I decided to let him swim while I gathered evidence. I acted as usual towards Lee while hiring a private investigator. Since the investigator I hired was run by a lawyer, they collected proper evidence that could be used in court if necessary. The investigation revealed that Lee had been frequently meeting this woman while neglecting work. Now that I had the evidence, I decided to confront Lee. Lee, are you hiding anything from me? What are you talking about all of a sudden? Of course not. I wanted to believe that too until recently, but then, can you explain this? Saying this, I handed Lee the envelope containing evidence of his affair. Upon seeing the contents, Lee turned pale. When did you get this? I had a private investigator look into it. I can't believe you'd been fooling around instead of working. You're quite the paycheck thief. How are you planning to make up for this? Vicki, please calm down. Let's talk about this. It was just a fling, a moment of weakness. I only love you, Vicki, and I'll break up with her. Forgive me. The shop needs me, right? You know I can't stand people who cheat, right? We promised each other never to cheat. There's no convincing me when someone breaks that promise. Following our conversation, Lee and I decided to get a divorce. Since I've been living in this house since before our marriage, Lee will need to move back to his parents' house or find a new one by the end of the month. But even though we've decided to divorce, I can't fire Lee without cause. Even if Lee voluntarily resigns, someone will need to take over his duties, especially the financial aspects, which he was solely responsible for. Moreover, I had already planned to go on a business trip for negotiations the next day, so I had to leave the shop in Lee's hands. I couldn't have predicted the outrageous turns of events that were about to unfold. The negotiation went smoothly without any major hitches, and I checked my phone. There was an SMS waiting for me while I had muted it. Assuming it was from an employee or someone else, I opened the message to find it was from my mother-in-law. I heard from my son you're getting a divorce. I'll be moving in with my son, so you'll need to move out. I'll throw out your belongings, so keep that in mind. As compensation for all these years, hand over the restaurant. I'll take the car too. Stunned by the message, I immediately called my mother-in-law. However, I was greeted with an automatic response stating that my call couldn't be connected due to the customer's request blocking my call. Even when I tried to call via WhatsApp, it would ring for a while before getting disconnected, showing no response. The messages weren't marked as read, so it seemed like she had blocked me on WhatsApp as well. I tried to reach out to the shop too, but couldn't get through as it was lunchtime and busy. Unable to bear staying where I was, I decided in a frantic rush to return to the restaurant. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, as she had declared she would do, had thrown away all of my belongings in the house, taken my luxury car for a joyride, and was heading towards the restaurant. When my mother-in-law arrived at the restaurant, she barged into the back office, ignoring the protest of the staff. Ma'am, please go back to the customer area. The area is off limits to anyone not employed here. What are you talking about? I'm the parent of the owner here, which basically makes me an owner too. Some of the employees who remembered her promptly took action. Gather the male staff. Call the manager. Phone the store owner. One of the employees called me on my cell phone. Vicki, it's an emergency. The manager's mom is claiming that she's the owner of this place and she's entered the back office. She went there, huh? I'm on my way now. I'll be there soon, so just try to hold her back. At the store, my husband Lee, who had been called by the employees, was in a frenzy, trying to handle my mother-in-law in the back. Mom, you shouldn't have come here. Let's go out the back door and talk. What are you talking about? Lee, this is why your wife takes you for granted. Aren't you getting a divorce? I was asked to help with moving, so I threw away all of your wife's things. Let's live together from today. Now that the troublesome wife is gone, this restaurant is ours. The absurd statements from my mother-in-law caused a stir among the employees gathered in the back. What are you saying, Mom? It's me who's leaving, not Vicki. But Lee, you said you wanted to live with me. You're the owner of this place and the house is yours too, right? The employees, realizing the situation, were furious. When I arrived back in a hurry, I found my mother-in-law and husband being confronted by the employees at the back office entrance. What have you done with our boss? This isn't your restaurant. Apologize and correct it. I decided to explain the truth to my mother-in-law once again. Mother-in-law, as I've explained before, this restaurant was originally opened by my parents. My father passed away before I became an adult, and since then my mother has been running the place. When I got engaged, she had a car accident and became wheelchair-bound due to the after effects. So she couldn't come here. My younger brother and his wife decided to take care of my mother, and I took over the restaurant with the long-standing staff members to protect it. Lee started helping with this place around that time. But Lee is the manager, and you're the owner, right? So this restaurant should belong to my son. The word manager can refer to both a position above the owner as well as a position below. It depends on the company. You're lying. Lee was involved in managing the store's finances and operations. If he isn't in higher managerial position, then what is he? Lee was managing the finances because I'm not good with money, and he's good at it because he graduated with a degree in economics. So I asked him to handle it, but he's not the owner of this restaurant. He's my subordinate. And I'm not the owner either. I'm just a hired manager. The ownership is still with my mother, and she holds the final decision on the business policy. What? Then I'll settle for just the house and the car. Give them to me. I heard from my son that you're paying the property tax, so there's no excuse. Indeed, I'm paying property taxes on the house, but the house is still under my mother's name and I haven't inherited it. I'm paying property tax as a form of rent. The car was bought before our marriage, so it's my personal property, not a marital asset. Moreover, since we're getting a divorce due to Lee's infidelity, it's me who should be getting the compensation. Lee has no rights other than his share of the marital assets. Huh? Finally seeming to grasp the situation, my mother-in-law looked like a deer in the headlights. Then in a panic, she made a humble apology. I'm sorry, Vicki. Please reconsider the divorce. I have debts. I wanted my son to pay them off, so please spare me the compensation. She confessed that she had been eyeing our restaurant for a while, thinking she could do whatever she wanted with the restaurant and its money, which led to her actions today. Mom, debts? What do you mean? You promised to live within your means and not incur any more debts when you filed for bankruptcy. But Lee, you were using the company's money to meet your mistress and take trips. You said you wanted to sort it out before your wife found out. Mom, why would you say that in front of everyone? A squabble ensued between my mother-in-law and husband, revealing another astonishing truth thanks to my mother-in-law. Lee, what's this about? The two of them kept apologizing, but it was too late. Upon examining the accounts, I noticed some suspicious details. The lodging expense on the receipt for my husband's business trip was exorbitantly high for one person, and when I looked up the name of the hotel, it turned out to be a motel known for short romantic stays. Additionally, there were some receipts from expensive shops that my husband had visited, and another from a mysterious jewelry shop dated towards the end of December. I found irrefutable evidence that my husband had been splurging on his mistress with the shop's money. I owe it all to my mother-in-law, who slipped up and gave everything away. This incident was the final straw leading to Lee's dismissal. In addition to seeking compensation for Lee's infidelity, I also demanded that he return the money he had embezzled from the company. As for my mother-in-law, I demanded compensation for the belongings she disposed of when she'd invaded my house, and the cost of repairs to my car, which she damaged while using it without my permission. I also charged her a nuisance fee for disrupting my business. All these matters were recorded in a notarized document. Thanks to the attorney affiliated with the detective agency handling everything, including the divorce proceedings, I was able to sit back and wait while Lee and my mother-in-law headed towards financial ruin. Following that, my ex-husband Lee and my mother-in-law came to visit me once. We're really struggling to make ends meet because of the compensation payments. Could you consider reducing them? I have no idea. You should consult with a lawyer about that, not me. But we are really struggling. Even to afford food, we can't apply for welfare because we're working, and we have to pay taxes on what we earn. In that case, you should contact a food bank. They can provide you with food that would otherwise be discarded even though it's still edible. Why do we have to go to such an unknown place? You're being so cold. Weren't we family at one point? What are you talking about? You might have been my mother-in-law, but the only person who became family to me through marriage was Lee. And we're divorced now, so you're a stranger to me. Besides, you did such terrible things to me and I have no obligation to help you. If there's anything regarding the compensation payments, please communicate through the lawyer from now on. I'll call the police if need be. The experience of being cheated on again and having the company's money squandered has added another trauma to my experiences of love and marriage. The first impression I had when I met my ex-husband, that this guy seems like a player and a spendthrift, turned out to be right on the mark. I'll use these lessons in future human relationships and in job interviews. Reflecting on the fact that I had failed to manage the restaurant's money properly, I consulted with my mother and decided to sign a contract for an accounting service, paying them a fair wage to handle things. Thanks to them checking our homemade accounts and receipts thoroughly, they can point out any mistakes, and even give advice on how much we can claim as business expenses. I should have done this earlier. I'm immensely grateful to my staff who showed their affection for me by being angry at my ex-husband and my mother-in-law for what they did, and I decided to appreciate them more than ever. With the restaurant's succession from my mother in mind, I committed myself to improving my skills as a manager and business owner, to become a person my team can be proud of.